Be honest, how tired are you of picking up your phone as soon as you wake up and getting riled up about the first bit of political news you see? I was looking forward to some of that calming down in 2026, but I just finished a conversation with three of the smartest political reporters I know. And based on what they're looking forward to covering in 2026, I think there are still going to be plenty of mornings our heart races, even before we've had our first sip of coffee.
I can guarantee you DC politics, if nothing else, will be the craziest and most consequential 12 months in the history of home rule.
And to be clear, not enough money for anything.
No, not enough money for anything.
Make a prediction. Does Youngkin cross the river and work for Trump? What's the danger in that?
Politics danger is poking the bear.
Well, let me stay in Maryland. What's your sense of where Larry Hogan is? Can I ask you what you think the effect of Zohran Mamdani is?
You know, we're not making money. We don't know. We can't afford a house. We can't live. The American dream has passed us by, and we want something that's going to bring that to us.
In D.C., Maryland, and Virginia in 2026, we'll have a new governor, a new mayor, a race for governor, and dozens of legislative races no matter where you live. All the while, we'll have a White House that puts pressure on virtually every elected leader and political trends that may be pulling every single one of them to the left. To make sense of what will be a very consequential year, we turn to three of the best political reporters in the business, and they just happen to be our colleagues here at News 4. This is 4 More Context, your seat in the News 4 newsroom for a conversation about how we check facts, fight for answers, break stories, and hold each other accountable. I think so many of us woke up way too many mornings in 2025 shocked at the first bit of news we saw from politics on our phone. Can you promise me any relief in Virginia, D.C., or Maryland as we look towards 2026?
Good question. I mean, in Virginia, voters in picking Abigail Spanberger picked somebody who was, some people would even say boring sometimes, steady, a calming presence, you know, a direct contrast to Donald Trump, who is, you know, universally not well liked in Virginia. So, you know, I think her effort is going to be to project that. The question is going to be, can she accomplish all these things that she talked about?
Yeah.
So talking about affordability is one thing, delivering is another.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you DC politics, if nothing else, will be the craziest and most consequential 12 months in the history of home rule, and that you will not want to miss a day going forward, without a doubt. That if you thought the last 12 months were crazy, you ain't seen nothing yet.
We'll come back to that. Trace?
I think in Maryland, it's going to be budget, 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 budget. I mean, this is what people are going to be paying attention to. What is happening in the state?
And to be clear, not enough money for anything.
No, not enough money for anything. And you have a majority Democratic House that wants money for everything.
Well, let me stay in Maryland. What's your sense of where Larry Hogan is?
So I've been talking with folks who have been talking with folks, and my understanding is there's a very real possibility as of this moment, as we are having this discussion, that he's not going to run.
So, Mark, as we look at the D.C. mayor's race, which is probably the most high-profile thing in D.C. next year, do we know all the candidates yet?
We do not. We won't know until late January.
And in that, you're talking about both Janice Lewis George and Kenny McDuffie.
Right.
You think there might be someone else who gets in the race of some substance?
That's right. There's talk about Christina Henderson. Even Mayor Bowser mentioned Christina Henderson in our exit interview or her announcement interview, that she may be, you know, she's in the talks about running against Phil Mendelson for chair. She's in the conversation about running possibly for mayor. So, and then there could be somebody who, you know, we haven't even seen step up, who, you know, not a council member, not a currently elected officials.
And getting into politics in 2026 is not a comfortable lane. I mean, it's a tough job. And so one of the things that I think makes it hard is the president. And the president has a lot of screws to twist in all of our neighborhoods. And Julie, I'm curious what you think as we look to 2026. What is the Trump effect on the General Assembly and on Abigail Spanberger?
Well, there's going to be a big effort to push back loudly. Since the Youngkin administration was seen as, not fighting back, as embracing in so many areas, immigration, the challenges to, universities and their governance. So I think, from Abigail Spanberg to the Democratic General Assembly, there's going to be an effort to push
What's
back.
What's the danger
with
in that?
Policies. The danger is poking the bear. And the other place I wonder about that happening is with Jay Jones as Attorney General. Because, we've had an Attorney General in Jason Miyares that has not challenged Trump policies, has not joined the lawsuits, even when they're policies that have hurt Virginia. So I think that's the other thing that's going to be very interesting to see. So, will Trump treat Virginia differently than that administration has? Although, even with a Republican governor, the Trump administration was pretty harsh on Virginia. When you look what happened to UVA, George Mason, Loudoun County, Fairfax, on the issues of university governance and transgender policy.
Make a prediction. Does Youngkin cross the river and work for Trump?
I think that's probably where he has his sights set right now. Where is still an open question. But, he's going to need to come up with something to try to stay on the national scene, since, I believe he does still have national political aspirations.
I will tell you that the Trump effect in Maryland is very good for Maryland politics.
How do you mean?
Because his approval ratings are so low right now. And I think that this is probably part of the reason why we may not see a serious Republican challenger enter this race, because how much money do we want to spend when we have an unpopular president? Even though he's not on the ticket, he's still on the ticket.
Because you talk about a place where Trump is unpopular. Right. I think Trump would love to have the approval ratings in D.C. that he has in Maryland, even though they're awfully low in Maryland. I mean, we've avoided poking the bear, to use Julie's phrase, in D.C. because Mayor Bowser has tried to preserve home rule. Is there any way next year, with so many council races and this mayor's race and the delegate race all front and center, that high-profile politicians in D.C. avoid poking the bear?
No, the Trump effect will play out mostly in the mayor's race because you have Janice Lewis George, who really will take a very different stance than, or so far has, than what Mayor Bowser has taken. We really don't, McDuffie may be a little bit more moderate in that respect than Janice Lewis George.
Where are D.C. voters? What are it feels like they want to fight.
Yes, and I think that's what Mayor Bowser learned politically from her stance, is that while it may have been the right stance, I mean, certainly she can point to it and say, look, and I've said this before, every day that Mayor Bowser wakes up and she's still mayor, she's winning, right, against Trump, because D.C. is vulnerable in a way that no other jurisdiction in the country is vulnerable in.
Let me jump in with something else in Virginia with the Trump effect already well underway, and that is this redistricting effort, this effort to potentially redistrict the congressional districts. So that's already in play, and we fully expect the Democratic General Assembly to act on that. That would put before the voters probably sometime in the spring a special election. So that's going to really, dominate.
Because
the
Virginia
story in the
Democrats
General
want
Assembly.
the November elections to be more pro-democratic.
Exactly. And when this was first rolled out, there was a talk of picking up maybe 2 or 3 congressional districts. They're talking about a 10-to-1 map now.
Can I throw another name into our mix? We talked about the effect of President Trump. Can I ask you what you think the effect of Zohran Mamdani is, the mayor of New York City? Not that his policies in New York City are necessarily going to be replicated here, but that huge swing to the left. Are Democrat politicians in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia looking at that either fearfully or excitedly?
Well, Maryland tried that, right? They did it in 2021. There were a lot of extreme leftist legislative pieces of legislation that passed. And there were a lot of it watching police departments and what they do, and punitive laws for officers who violate the law. There were a lot of changes in juvenile justice and how they prosecute juveniles. And what we have seen Maryland do is go back to the center, right?
Why?
I think that the center is where Maryland lives.
Yeah.
I think this is why Larry Hogan was able to be governor for as long as he was. I think that it is just a very centrist, although democratic state.
They went too far.
I think that a lot of the people in the legislature felt like they went too far, and I think voters probably did too.
So Janice Lewis George again already being compared to the mayor-elect in New York City.
And not shying away from it.
No, but then she points to other mayors
Okay.
who she also fashions herself or would fashion herself after. Axios did a big piece on, is Janice Lewis George the next socialist Democrat for DC?
So will we see an end to federal cooperation with the police? Will we see?
Well, that's where reality will hit the road. You may see a lot of talk about that
Yep.
on the campaign trail, but even when I asked both, when I asked Janice Lewis George about that, and when I asked Kenyon McDuffie about that before he even announced, neither one would get into specifics about, what would the question, what would you do differently than what Mayor Bowser is doing right now?
And yet, I think it was your interview that Abigail Spanberger said she's going to stop some of that cooperation.
Two places we're going to see a departure. And, first of all, is in the agreement that Glenn Youngkin had Virginia State Police sign with ICE.
Right.
Virginia State Police, they're acting as, agents of ICE out on the street in arrests and in deportations. Spanberger said that MOU is going away. That 287G agreement is going away under her jurisdiction. She says fine if VSP wants to cooperate when there is a warrant for arrest.
For a specific criminal.
But that's going to be a big change. And then secondly, as far as transgender student policy goes. We remember early on in Governor Youngkin's administration, it was a really controversial proposal that's just continued to cause turmoil in school districts, especially in Northern Virginia. But the policy that was set out, she says, that's going to go away to you. She said if it causes that much conflict in school districts, something's wrong with it.
Can I ask you, are you hearing Mamdani come up in conversations with folks in the General Assembly or in the governor's office or in congressional races? And what is the danger for Virginians in seeing that as the future?
Yeah, not really. And I think, as Tracy was saying about Maryland, Virginia Democrats have been there a little bit before, too. And that was in 2019, the last time they had their last sizable majority in the House of Delegates. And I think there was a feeling that they overplayed their hand then, especially on the issue of criminal justice reform. I think that came back to bite them in later years and help Republicans, win with the message of public safety. Having said that, though, we're going to see, minimum wage go through finally after Democrats working on that. Will, retail sale of cannabis probably move ahead. Things that are probably seen as more aligned with a left agenda.
But the question is, what does that do to the Democratic Party, right? So what we're talking about is the practicality of it all, that we have seen local legislatures that have learned if we go too far left, we lose our seats if we do. But what we're seeing, and I think what you're trying to get to, is that we're seeing a generation of voters who want that kind of passion, who want you to go really far out there to protect, whether you want to call it left or not, to protect the fact that, we're not making money. We don't know. We can't afford a house. We can't live. The American dream has passed us by, and we want something that's going to bring that to us. And we want you to be sure-footed in that, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
I think it's the passion. It's the question. It's the fighter. And do we have that? Is that going to emerge? I think you're right.
But I think voters, particularly Virginia voters, in what we just saw, I think they're even more focused on just the very practical issues. And can Abigail Spanberger and this Democratic General Assembly deliver on some of those? Will there be a path to, housing affordability?
Well, but to any of you, isn't it easier to be a fighter and poke Trump in the face than it is to make housing affordable?
Yeah.
Can I ask you, as you look ahead to the next year of political coverage, what is the question you all think voters want answered that politicians will try to avoid?
A better economy and a living wage. Living wage. I think living wage is going to be the big one.
Yep. Okay.
Healthcare, living wage, education. It's always the things that people care about the most.
Yep. Make my life easier.
Make my life easier.
I think DC is so different than Maryland and Virginia, right?
Of course.
For all the reasons that we've talked about and that everybody understands. And so I think for DC, I think, as I said before, I think the candidates are going to, particularly at the upper level, at the mayor's level, really tried to avoid any specificity about what they would do with immigration cooperation, what they would do to push back against the interference.
Well, what are you going to do about data centers and energy policy? I mean, that is just, it's not that they won't talk about it, it's not that they're avoiding it exactly, but what are you going to do?
I'm interested to see what Steny Hoyer's going to do.
Huh.
And if he's going to run again. And if he decides not to run again, there are a long list of young politicians who would like to jump in there. But he's a very powerful person. He holds a lot of power on the Hill.
Yeah.
And what he represents for the state of Maryland and the Democratic Party is significant.
You know, for me, it's two stories that I really want to see how they end, but I am also dreading covering. One is Eleanor Holmes Norton.
Yep.
You know, this is a woman who, you know, has had a remarkable career and has done so much, and it just seems like it's going to end badly. You know, when I broke the story about the police report that mentioned dementia, it broke my heart. Right,
Yeah.
to have to make those calls to her office and to report and to talk to her friends
And
about
I think
that.
a lot of viewers too.
And this is a woman who deserves to go out carried on people's shoulders, right? Whether you like her policies or not. I mean, this woman's place in American history and in the civil rights movement is up there with the greats. And to have it end this way, I don't look forward to that. And then Ward 8, Trayon White. You know, we're going to have to wait until, you know, sometime in until spring really of 2026 for his trial to begin, and the people of Ward 8 are a community that need representation, that need attention, that need help. You know, he was on the dais the other day fighting for rec centers, for a swimming pool in Ward 8, and at the same time he has this bribery charge hanging over him, and if he's found guilty and there has to be yet another special election, these are two big stories that I don't have any idea how either one of those are going to play out. But they're really important stories that could lead to a lot of heartbreak for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, District
sure.
8 is Marion Barry's district, right? That is
right,
the
yeah.
district of forgiveness.
Yeah.
That is
Well,
the district of...
you know, DC is a city of second chances.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that DC is a city of second chances, and that's a good thing. But they've just been distractions, right? This has just been a huge distraction for the residents of Ward 8, and it would really be nice to just...
Who've been crying out for significant reinvestment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Julie?
I'm going to mention two things too. Just first of all, I mean, how much can Abigail Spanberger deliver in her first year? Voters' expectations are so high.
Yep.
So what can she get done along with this Democratic majority? I mean, they should be able to get a lot accomplished. And then just secondly, you know, I don't like Mark, I don't know if I dread it or look forward to it, but covering this redistricting battle, redistricting all the congressional seats. I think that's going to be fascinating.
Can I
Oh,
get
go
another
ahead.
bite at the apple on
Sure.
covering
Go ahead.
in
I know you gotta get
2026?
out of here.
I just have to say, what has happened to federal workers in our region?
Yeah.
They have been truly decimated. And the money that has been lost in Maryland specifically, the jobs that have been lost in Maryland, what it has done to Prince George's County. It is the #1 job loss in the state and now in the country. We will never look the same.
With so much on our 2026 ballots and on our minds constantly, where you get your news is important. We'd love it if it was News 4 on air, online, on our social media, but we know you have a lot of choices. For more context in these busy times, we'd encourage you to diversify your feed a little bit. When everything, including news, can at times be so partisan, don't let the algorithm make your feed partisan too. If you like this kind of context, we hope you'll check out a lot more of it on NBC Washington YouTube page. Like it, subscribe to it, tell us what you think about it in the comments. I'm Ted Oberg from the News 4 I-Team. You can find me anywhere on social at TedNBC4. In the meantime, I'll be here, working for you.